You should all be coordinated and synchronized so that your movements are at the same time. If you are looking at a row of police officers in uniform, they all should have a uniform appearance. They all should look the same. All right, equanimity, I think I talked about it a little bit yesterday when we were looking at the stems, but there's 3 stems in this one. You've got the ity, iti, which is the state or quality of being. Then you have equa, which is equal, and you have anima, which is mind or spirit. So you can kind of think of this as the equality of being of equal mind or equal spirit. And someone who has equanimity or displays equanimity, okay, it's a noun, so you have to have it or display it or be an example of it. That means that you don't get too angry, but you also don't get too excited. You just kind of maintain an even keel with your emotions. You're very even-tempered. Not very much rattles you, but also not very much gets you excited. I actually think that Deacon Rick is the kind of person who displays a lot of equanimity. Okay, he's not jumping up and down with excitement about stuff. He's happy, but he's not the kind of person who's jumping up and down or, just full of, he's not like Mrs. Ganser, who is, full of joy and lots of animated excitement. And then also, people who are very excitable can also get very upset, and they wear their emotions on their sleeve, so to speak, if you ever heard that phrase. Someone with a lot of equanimity doesn't wear their emotions on their sleeve. You can tell when they're happy and you can tell when they're sad, but it's more of a balance in their emotions where they tend to kind of stay in the middle without the real big highs or the big lows. All right, then you have magnanimous, which also has 3 stems. You've got ous, which is full of, magna, which is great, and anima, which is mind or spirit. So you have full of great mind or full of great spirit. And that came to be used to describe someone who's very generous or very forgiving. Someone who really maybe takes the high road, even at his or her own, expense, and tries not to toot their own horn about or brag about something, but is kind of humble. Somebody that you could go to when you needed something, and or maybe even they would give something of themselves, make a big sacrifice without even being asked. Someone that is very forgiving, even when maybe it's a hurt that goes pretty deep. So that's a magnanimous person, and it's a rare quality. You wouldn't use this to describe the average person who forgives, but someone truly who is just generous of spirit, very forgiving. If you think about the very first part of that definition, it says noble of heart. Now, how many people would you describe as noble of heart? Probably, maybe a handful. Not every time you turn the corner do you really meet someone that you could describe in this way. I actually kind of think of P squared this way. He never forgets anyone's birthday on staff. I'm not sure if he does that for the students too, but I started working at Guerin Catholic a week before my birthday. Like literally, I started on a Monday, my birthday was a Friday. And on the first day, he says, "Hey, when's your birthday?" And I thought that was such an odd question. And then at the end of that week, there was a candy bar on my desk. He is just very thoughtful that way. He's always willing to help out. He's very generous with his time. He's magnanimous, in my opinion. Okay, then we get to all the words that I added on the list that come from the stem, or at least that contain the stem, the prefix dis, which means away, apart, not, cease. All right. To disavow, most of these dis words are verbs, by the way. To disavow means to disclaim. So a lot of it is that you disclaim, so you don't claim anything to do with whatever happened or maybe you disclaim any knowledge of something that's happened. But in other words, you want to make sure that you make everyone else aware that you had nothing to do with anything, something that maybe was disagreeable, and you want to make sure that you have no claim in that situation. In the movie, in the TV series Mission Impossible, and one of the earlier movies, I think he was kind of like a CIA spy or whatever. But anyway, every time he would get his mission, it always ended with, if you should fail, any knowledge or of you or your mission will be disavowed. So in other words, it's great if you succeed, you'll get another mission. If you fail, we will not come save you. We will disclaim any knowledge or any involvement in this mission. And they always use the word disavow in that context. All right, then you have two verbs, dissipate and disseminate. And dissipate is an intransitive verb, and this is a very important distinction. All right, you can't dissipate something. All right, when we have a transitive verb, that means you can do it. It acts upon something. All right, you can't dissipate something. Something dissipates. All right. So, for instance, if you look at the sentence that I have, the Kool-Aid crystals dissipated in the warm water. So I sprinkle the crystals in and I watch them dissipate. In other words, I kind of watch them scatter and dissolve. I can't make that happen. It happens. It's on a chemical level. Okay. Same thing with like putting salt in water. You could use this to talk about how seeds dissipated. You could look at storm clouds and watch how, as they move across the country, they dissipated and the storm, decreased in severity. That would be how we see the word dissipate being used. It describes an action. It doesn't act. Now, disseminate is the opposite of that. In disseminate, you have to disseminate something, all right? And it means to distribute something widely. So in other words, it's not just that you handed something out to one or two people, but that you handed it out to everybody. So we disseminated the brochures across town. We disseminated flyers throughout the neighborhood. It means that you distributed something on a wide scale. Then you have dissuade, which means to persuade against. So it's the idea that you are trying to persuade someone against some course of action, whether it's something they're about to say or something they're going to do. You want to persuade them not to do it. So you use the word dissuade. I tried to dissuade them from driving under the influence of alcohol, but they would not listen, or something like that. But you're trying to persuade someone against doing something, so you don't have to use the word against. Usually it's I tried to dissuade somebody from something. It's kind of, if you think of that as is there a formula for using that word? You dissuade someone from something. Okay? All right. Disparage. It means to belittle. And if you disparage someone, you say something about them that would make them feel less in someone else's opinion or in someone else's eyes. In other words, you kind of bring them down a notch. You hurt their reputation in some way. Doesn't have to be like with gossip and rumors, although that can do it. But it could just be a way of describing what someone said about you. Think about what you text, because it could disparage another person. Or don't disparage him when he's not even here to defend himself. All right? Then finally you have disparity, which is a difference in amount. This is the noun. And you've got the ITY, state or quality of being. And the idea is that you're noticing a difference in amount. So there could be a disparity in wages between men and women. That would imply that there's a great difference in the amount that they earn between men and women. You could see a disparity in age. You could see a disparity in maybe patriotism between certain groups of people, any difference in amount.